It's the show all about our first state, Delaware. Highlighting all sorts of events, stories, current news, and exciting people. With your hosts, Patricia D. Harris and Richard F. Blackwell. Welcome to View from the 302.
Welcome to View from the 302. I'm Richard Frank Blackwell.
And I am Patricia D. Harris, and this show is all about our first state, Delaware.
That's right. On the first Wednesday of each month, Patricia and I will bring you the exciting news and events that are happening in our first state.
And we will also be highlighting some awesome people in Delaware who are keeping Delaware not only alive, but thriving.
That's right. So, Patty, who will you be visiting with?
Richard, I am so excited to have Mr. Rudy Sutton from Townsend, Delaware. How about you?
Well, today I'll be visiting with Newcastle County's top cop, Colonel Vaughn Bond. And a little bit later, we will have our Delaware Sports Report with Dan Rosenfeld.
We will also be sharing with you some things that have already taken place in Delaware in the month of March.
And with that in mind, as we all know, Delaware is comprised of 3 counties: Newcastle, Sussex, and Kent. So let's start with some great news from Dover, our state capital in Kent County, where Wesley College has been approved for funding to keep the school open, as they have received up to $3 million from the state. And as you know, Patty, we talked about that last month.
Yes, we did.
So we're thankful that Wesley College will continue to educate people in Delaware.
Yes, we are. And in Newcastle County, the City of Wilmington and Bethel AME Church presented their Hour of Power event for National Gun Violence Survivors Week. Kudos to Reverend Dr. Beeman for organizing the event, and our prayers go out to those that have been victimized by gun violence.
Yes, we definitely pray for those individuals. And the city of Milford is planning to open a pediatric care facility so that the residents no longer have to drive to Wilmington just to get health care for their children. Bay Health and Nemours Children's Health Systems have partnered to make this happen, and the facility should open sometime next year.
That's awesome. I mean, so that they don't have to take that trip.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Saves
to have
a lot
it right
of time.
there in Milford.
Yes.
Awesome. Also in Newcastle County, Frontier Airlines is coming back to Newcastle in the very near future. Yes, I'm excited to hear that. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Offering flights from Newcastle to Orlando, Florida. The airline will start small and then later add other destinations. I am very excited about that.
I'm sure a lot of people who travel pretty often, now they don't have to go to Philadelphia.
Right, or even Baltimore.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we won't be hearing the radio program Hometown Heroes, hosted by Mark Rogers, for a while. After 14 years on WSTW 93.7 FM, the show has been canceled, but Mark plans to be on the air somewhere and soon, as WSTW was recently sold.
Okay. And speaking of hometown hero eras coming to an end, Jeopardy contestant Michelle Paul of Newark did a great job on the popular TV game show, winning 2 days in a row. That's pretty exciting. And I'm a little disappointed that I missed that because I watched Jeopardy. So she won for 2 days, but that's history. And congratulations, Michelle. That's pretty exciting.
I think so as well. Yes, congratulations, Michelle. And now let's join Patty and her guest, Mr. Sutton, on View from the 302.
Welcome back to View from the 302. I am Patricia Harris, your co-host, and I am so excited to have with me today Mr. Rudy Sutton from Townsend, Delaware. Rudy, how are you?
Doing well, Patty.
Wonderful. It's been a long time.
Yes, it has.
A long time. I can't even, I was trying to think, when's the last time I seen Rudy?
It's been quite a number of years, maybe 7 years or so. I'm not sure.
Yes. So I'm so excited to be here with you today. I'm more excited to talk about you becoming mayor of Townsend. So I know you from church. I know you from Contracting Plus. And how's that business going?
It's going well.
It's going well? Okay, awesome. And I just want to talk a little bit about you being the owner of Contracting Plus.
Mm-hmm.
And then how did you make the transition to becoming the mayor of Townsend? I have to tell you, when I heard that, I was like, Rudy? And not that it was surprising in the sense that I didn't think you could do it.
Yeah.
It was just surprising in the sense that, one, I didn't know that you were in politics.
Mm-hmm.
And just, hearing mayor, it just, I was just very surprised, So tell me a little bit about that.
So I have to admit it, throughout the time serving, I would wake up at times and still be a little bit in unbelief because it wasn't quite what I set out to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
Career-wise, I knew I always wanted to be a carpenter.
Right.
So what happened was an election came up one year, and one of my neighbor actually was running for council, and I've always, for several years, I always wondered what it would be like serving in politics, because my passion always been to help people. And so when that happened, and my neighbor, someone that's pretty close to me, was running for a political seat, that made me, well, actually, my wife Keisha, she said, well, Rudy, that would be a good opportunity for you. And I said, and it bounced around in my mind for a while. And the next, I believe it was the following year, the opportunity came up to run for council, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna do it. So that kind of started things off, and served on council for 3 years. And then the opportunity came where I was approached by who was current council at the time, and they thought that I'd be best fit.
Oh, wow.
And I was just as surprised. Because I actually said, I thought one of you guys would be best fit. So, but I prayed about it and accepted the challenge and the responsibility, and it was great. It was challenging, but it was a lot. Learned a lot. And I would still be on council today if it wasn't for just the business, pulling of the business. Because we have the town growing, the business growing. And I had to make a decision.
So let me ask you, so during your term, which was what, 3 or 4 years?
3 years.
So you did not lay down Contracting Plus?
No.
You continued to run Contracting Plus and the town of Townsend?
Yes.
Okay, so how did you do that?
Yeah, so Townsend, Townsend's made up of about roughly 3,500 people. So the position of mayor doesn't require you 8 hours a day. Yet it does take up mental space.
I'm sure.
For more than 8 hours a day. So you're able to still operate. I did have an office in the town hall, which I frequented, but I didn't have to be there every day. I had to be there for 2 meetings per month, and of course meetings outside of that concerning the town. But it sometimes I still wonder how I done it, but the Lord has stretched me over the years. So
that's awesome. So as you were the mayor, share with me some things that you learned in that position that you would have never otherwise knew.
So for starters, I learned how much local government plays a major part on the grand scheme of things. There are many things that take place on local government, and that, put it this way, currently on the news, most of your news that you see isn't the most positive news when it comes to political positions. But in a small town like Townsend, it really blew my mind once I discovered some things that take place even on a small
Smallest,
scale.
okay.
Yeah. So truly, I've learned that I want to put this in the right way.
Yes.
I've learned that the things you see on the grand scale, they didn't just start there. Small town politics, it's important for residents to be just as involved as in the big town politics, because just knowing that you have a voice and having the opportunity to have a voice for the residents of Townsend is something I'll never forget.
You said something about being just involved on a smaller scale than as you are on the larger scale. So if we look at Townsend and then we look at maybe Philadelphia, and you would think that Townsend is so small, we're not going through what they're going through in Philadelphia or New Jersey or whatever the case may be. But I'm glad that you pointed out that we have to be just as involved.
Yes.
And so when I think about Townsend and I think about, so if we go south, below the bridge, Middletown, Odessa, Townsend, and that is it's growing just crazy down there. And so I could see where what you just said would be accurate, because with it growing the way it is, in my mind I'm thinking how easy it could be for a small town to get lost, right? And so was there a lot of between so we'll say MOT, Middletown, Odessa, and Townsend. How did the three work together? Because I'm assuming 3 different mayors, right?
Yes.
In a location that's booming. So what challenges did you face in regards to that?
Yeah, so I would say the biggest challenges Townsend faced is number one, the council together, along with myself, we were all in agreement that none of us wanted to see Townsend grow at the pace of our neighboring municipalities. So, for instance, Middletown has a lot of commercial growth, and Townsend always been in desperate need of that. But we never wanted to bring that type of commerce that Middletown has to Townsend. Just because Townsend has really drawn people to that area, and as well as my family, is that small town feel. So the goal was always to keep that small town feel in Townsend, but yet we still wanted to take advantage of the resources that even Newcastle County would have. As County Exec Matt Myers would work close with us in trying to make sure that Townsend, as well as other municipalities below the canal, would have resources that the other municipalities have further north.
Awesome. I have to say this, and I hope you don't take offense to it. It's one of those things. When I heard that Rudy Sutton was the mayor, it surprised me, warmed my heart all at the same time. And I can tell you, from the moment I heard it, I always wanted to sit down and have a conversation with you about it, because it's just like, how does that happen? And so with you owning Contracting Plus and running that business as you're the mayor, tell us a little bit more about Contracting Plus and what areas you're serving and how individuals can get in touch with you.
Well, Contracting Plus, we've been around since 2002, and company started from my old partner, Joe Devane. He started the business, and I bought in 2005. And we grew the business, and then after the housing crisis, we've scaled all the way down, and Joe Devane's doing well. He got into the insurance business, and I continue to run the business. And now we're at a point where my oldest son is also works in the business. He's a third-year apprentice. And with the hopes of him taking over the business,
keeping it in the business, keeping it in the family, rather. Yes, absolutely. That's a blessing.
And we service all Newcastle County. Many people see our trucks around, and We have a Facebook account. We
Okay.
don't do a whole lot of advertising no more. So, save some money.
Yes,
on that.
yes.
Our business is pretty much word of mouth, and
Okay.
we've been blessed over the years, and we just try to put our best foot forward each day.
Awesome.
And again, my passion is to serve the people. So people that come in contact with me, they see a difference,
Right.
and that's what it's about.
Awesome. So your oldest son is on board. I know you have another son.
Yes.
Okay. How is he interested in carpentry or not becoming part of Contracting Plus?
You know what, Patty? I couldn't get him to pick up a tool. If it was
He's just not interested.
Yeah. He's
Okay.
a freshman at Xavier University.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a pre-med major.
Okay. Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so
Okay.
he'll hire us to work for him. Yeah, basically.
Okay. And how about your daughter?
Yeah, she's doing very well. She's a
Good.
junior in high school now.
Wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful. Yes, and I know your beautiful wife. I've known her just as long as I've known you, and so I'm just so excited that we've had the opportunity to sit down and talk, and for you to share a little bit about your journey. I'm so excited to hear that Contracting Plus is still thriving in Delaware, and I see the trucks, still, and that's exciting to see. So I just want to thank you.
Thank you.
I know you got to get on the road, so I appreciate your time, and we will be back with Richard Blackwell and his guest, Colonel Vaughn Bond.
Welcome back to View from the 302. I'm Richard Blackwell, and I'm very happy to have with me today as my guest, Newcastle County Chief of Police, Colonel Vaughn Bond. Colonel, welcome to View from 302.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
It's my pleasure. Colonel, let's talk about you and what it's like being the chief of the largest county in Delaware, Newcastle County. What is your daily routine like as Chief of Police?
Well, I'll say this. My daily routine changes every day.
Yeah.
It consists basically of facing the challenges that we're confronted with on a regular basis, whether those be individuals who are suffering from substance abuse, mental health, talking about the direction of the agency, coming up with innovative ways to combat the issues while also being responsive to the needs of the community.
Which is very important.
Right. And so as a result of many of that, we spent a lot of our time here recently talking about our newly created behavioral health unit, where we deal with individuals who are suffering from substance abuse as well as mental health issues, which comprise of many of the individuals that we come into contact with every day. So we are about promoting that program as well as officer accountability, providing direction to the agency, and making sure that we are adhering to the standards that people have for Newcastle County Police Department. In my talks with our officers, I always use the term exceeding expectations.
Of course.
Doing more than what people expect from a police department.
Now, you've been in law enforcement since you graduated from Delaware State. Are you from Delaware? A lot of people may not know. Is this home for you?
I was born in Virginia, but I've been living in Delaware since I was probably about six years old. I grew up in Newcastle until I was in 5th grade, and then my parents moved out to Newark, and so I went to Glasgow High School, graduated from Glasgow High School in 1986, and then went to Norfolk State for 1 year, and I transferred over to Delaware State and graduated from Delaware State in '91.
Is that when you began your law enforcement career?
Yes, I graduated in May of 1991, and I started with Newcastle County Police December of 1991.
Did you always aspire to be in law enforcement? I know with your psychology degree, you could go different ways with that.
Well, I'll say this. When you barely got out of Del State, as I did, when you barely got out, you figured that I better take a little break before I go on to anything else. But no, seriously, I never aspired. I didn't aspire to be a police officer until I had the opportunity to talk with 2 of my fraternity brothers in Omega Psi Phi. Who were Delaware State troopers. And when I had an opportunity to talk to them, I realized that this was a job that I think I would be very interested in, because it gave you the opportunity to really interact with people, to help people, and it was going to be something that was different every day. I'm the type of person that I need to have different challenges every day in order to keep me motivated and keep me encouraged and engaged.
Yeah. I'm very proud of your service that you've given to Newcastle County. You've rose through the ranks, and you've received quite a few accolades during your career. In fact, you received a distinguished unit citation. That's just one of the things that you received. Also in 1997, you received the Crime Stoppers Detective of the Year award. Now I know that had to be pretty special for you.
Yeah, well, I look back on my years as a detective. I spent from 1996 to 2003 in detectives, and I had the opportunity to work undercover. I worked on the Family Services Unit, where we investigated child sexual abuse cases, physical abuse cases against children. I also moved over to the Crimes Against Persons unit, where we handled homicides, rapes, robberies, your more serious crimes. And so to be awarded with that recognition back in 1997, it was a tremendous accomplishment. And the following year, I was nominated again. However, they gave it to someone else. But it was a great time, and I really enjoyed and learned a lot about investigations and helping people in the most critical times and most sad times of their lives.
And also, I know that you received the Mothers Against Drug Driver award as well.
Oh, that was many years ago. That's when I was a patrol officer, and that was just from the number of driving under the influence arrests that I made as a young officer. That was something that we really focused on, because at that particular time, and going back into the early 90s, that was a tremendous problem. Now that's overtaken by the distracted driving and the cell phones. And, and I think the cell phones now are probably more of an issue than drunk driving was back then, because so many people are losing their lives because of using handheld devices inside their vehicles while moving. So.
That's something that interesting that you brought that up, because I think since the law has been passed, I see more people violating the law than ever before. I mean, it's amazing.
Yes, it's something about that device, and when it goes off, we have to answer it. We have to send that text, and we're very negligent in what we're doing, and not realizing that what you're doing can cost you your life or someone else's life.
And it's interesting, because I don't think, in thinking about how people drive, I don't think people are cognizant that their vehicle can kill.
Yeah, you're right.
Your vehicle is a weapon.
That's right.
And that's something we need to be cognizant of as we're driving.
That's right.
Because an incorrect move, you could cost someone their life.
You're absolutely correct. And we see it all the time. And, it's unfortunate that people often say, man, for some reason this person veered off the side of the road, or they veered into oncoming traffic. And many times what we find out during the course of the investigation is that the person was using their phone. They were sending a text. They were responding to an email, and you're looking down, and what you don't realize is how fast that vehicle is traveling, how many feet per second that vehicle is traveling. So just a slight glance away from the road to look down at your phone, and that car veers off, or traffic in front of you stops. you can find yourself in an accident.
That's so true. You know, Colonel, March 2017, you were appointed by Newcastle County Executive Matt Myers as the first, as the highest ranking African American in the Newcastle County Police Force.
Yes.
You were promoted to colonel.
Yes.
How did that feel? What did that mean to you and to your family?
You know, honestly, when it initially happened, first of all, it wasn't anything that I sought after. it really wasn't. I was at the deputy chief position, number 2 position, and I was content with being there. But I've had people always surrounded by good counsel and people who encourage me. But when I received that elevation to where I am right now, one day I had an opportunity, and I just sat and I thought about the people who came before me.
Right.
And I shake my head because I should not have been the first African American police chief. We had individuals who came before me who were more qualified than I was to have this position. But because the atmosphere and the timing at that particular time wasn't what it is today, they didn't have that opportunity. And so when I think about where I am right now, I'm very appreciative and grateful for those individuals who in law enforcement and outside of law enforcement who paved the way to make sure. And going back to the individuals from, in the 60s who fought for African Americans to have the same opportunities as everyone else, to have a fair chance at excelling and reaching different plateaus. And so I think about Robert Snow, who was the first African American police officer with Newcastle County Police Department. I had the opportunity to know Brother Snow for many years, and he passed away not too long ago. And I visited him shortly after I received one of my promotion to deputy chief, and he was in a nursing home, and he was so proud. Yes. And so to me, what did it mean? It means so much. Yes. I feel, I think it's not only for the police officers, but for the community, because so many people are proud of this accomplishment, and I have to thank them because, like I said, there's so many people who pushed me when I didn't feel like doing it, and I didn't feel like going and testing for the next rank, or I didn't think that I had the skill set to go to the next level. There were people, many people in the African American community who gave me that encouragement to move on. And so when I put this uniform on and when I put this rank on, I am reminded of who I stand for, who helped to get me, propel me to this level, and I'm reminded of the responsibility that I have.
Exactly. And speaking of that responsibility, you have instituted a lot of programs in Newcastle County. Let's talk about, and we've got a few minutes, let's touch on some of the programs that you have instituted in Newcastle County, such as one of them, which you've done, you mentioned, is the mental health. Talk about that real briefly, about how you established that.
Well, as I said, my degree was in psychology. I've always been interested in it. And one of the things I realized over the years in law enforcement is that we're having more and more interactions with people who are suffering from mental illness. And as often the first responders to those calls, I feel like we have an obligation in law enforcement to educate ourselves, to train ourselves, so that when we encounter people who are suffering from mental illness and they're in a crisis, that we know how to appropriately handle that situation, that the officers know before we resort to using force against that person. Let's learn to de-escalate that situation. Let's train our officers so that they can recognize what the signs are and figure out the best way to communicate with that person. And so we have teamed up with NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, Dr. Thomas over there, and we have the crisis intervention team training where officers are giving a 40-hour training to deal with individuals who are suffering from mental illness. And so realizing and recognizing what a significant issue this is for us, we realized that we wanted to create a unit, behavioral health unit, where we can deal with both the individuals who are suffering from substance abuse disorder as well as mental illness, and getting them connected with the appropriate resources. And so we teamed up with the Division of Substance Abuse and Mental Health Elizabeth Romero is the director of that. We partnered up with quite a few organizations where we can come together, work, and introduce those individuals who are suffering from either one of those issues to the appropriate resources so they can get the help they need, and also their families.
Yeah, I commend you for that. And then on a lighter note, you're doing some things for the youth of the community, such as you founded the Mobile Police Athletic Play Zone.
Yes.
So the kids can have something to do.
Right.
You've also established the Halloween Trunk or Treat,
Yes.
which gives the children of Newcastle County a safe place
Right.
to go trick-or-treating when that time comes around. So, you've done an awful lot, Colonel, and I just commend you and thank you for your service to Newcastle County as a law enforcement officer.
Right. Well, and I'll just say this. Sometimes as a chief, you get credit for things you didn't do, and sometimes you get credit for things you didn't do. And so, I'll say this: that the Mobile Pal Play Zone, I encourage all our officers to come up with creative ways, innovative ways that we can engage the community more. We're in a position right now where law enforcement is struggling to get legitimacy in some communities, and we have to go beyond the traditional thinking in order to establish these relationships. That's right. And so, Officer Pierce is a person who came up with that Mobile Pal Play Zone, taking the PAL. Many kids can't make it to our PAL location, so we're taking it into the communities, and that was his idea. The Halloween Trunk or Treat program, that was Sergeant Trudeau's initiative and her idea that she brought to me. And one that's not mentioned in there is Corporal Tracy Duffy, the Police and Princess Ball that we've doing, and we have one coming up in April. I don't have the exact date, where we focused on young girls from the community of Edgemoor a couple years ago. Tracy Duffy was assigned as a foot patrol officer, and she had gowns donated. Talked to the owners of the Waterfalls banquet facility and limousine services, and I tell you, we put on this program, probably about 70 girls were there. And these are young girls aging from like 6 up to 12. And they had a great time. And we had police officers there that was escorting them, many of them riding in limos and party buses. So it was a great time.
Well, as you said, the programs come through you. So the fact that you see the need and you approve it and you make sure that everything comes together in the right order, that is attributed to you. Now, thinking about that, if there's a young person watching the program and they want to become a police officer, is there any words of encouragement that you can give them?
What I would encourage any young person is, this is a great profession. And right now we need good young people. We are hiring right now. If they go to our Newcastle County Police website, there's an application that they can complete. We're going to have a class June 22nd. Of 2020 that will start that class. I would encourage them to be mindful of, number one, social media. What do you put on social media?
Exactly.
Photographs, comments. I would also tell them to be very careful about the company that they keep.
Exactly.
And to make wise decisions and choices, because all of that, if you go into the process to be a police officer, and then during the course of the background investigation, a lot of things come to the surface. So please be careful with that. But consider law enforcement as a career. It's a great opportunity to give back to the community.
Good. Well, Colonel Vaughn, I want to thank you, sir, for being with us today. You've given a lot of great information. And as I said before, Colonel, we appreciate your service that you give to Newcastle County.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
And giving us this opportunity.
You got it. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being with us. Stay tuned, folks. We've got our Delaware Sports Report with Dan Rosenfeld coming up next on View from the 302.
Thank you, Richard, and hello, everyone. I am Dan Rosenfield with your Delaware Sports Report. If you haven't heard by now, the University of Delaware men's basketball team is really good. At this point in the season, head coach Martin Inglesby has the team at 20-9 overall and 10-6 in the CAA, sitting in third place in the conference. Delaware has reached 20 wins for just the 8th time in school history. The team is poised to make a run at the CAA title and return to the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2014. The Blue Hens men's basketball team is not the only squad enjoying success, however. The university's women's softball team is enjoying a 12-2 record, and their 9-1 start was the best since their first season in 1976. Sophomore Brooke Landon is hitting an absurd .432 with 22 RBI and 3 home runs. Pitchers Maddie Marshy and Sarah Pianing have been great on the mound, holding a 5-0 and 4-0 record, respectively. Other Blue Hens teams that have been hot are men's lacrosse, who are 3-1, men's tennis, who are 8-1, women's tennis is 4-2, and in addition, baseball is 2-4, and women's lacrosse is 0-2. Women's basketball has also been struggling a bit, and at this point in the season, they are 10-15 overall, and 6-8 in the CAA. The Del State Hornets have also been in a bit of a slump themselves. The school's men's basketball team has really been struggling, going 3-24 and are on a 7-game losing streak. Ouch. Their women's basketball team is faring a bit better, holding a record of 12-14. Their baseball team is 2-4. Women's golf 0-1. Softball is 0-11, and women's lacrosse is 0-3. But at this point in the season, their best team is women's tennis, which is 2-1, so pretty good start for them. Moving on to pro sports, the Delaware Bluecoats are 19-17, pretty good, holding 6th place in the Eastern Conference. They're only 8-11 at home, but are 11-6 away from the 76ers Fieldhouse. Pretty impressive away record for them. Mario Shayok leads the team with 23.4 points per game, good for 4th most in the entire G League. Shayok has been named the Eastern Conference mid-season All-G League team. Pretty good for him. He's also on a 2-way contract with the Philadelphia 76ers, and he hit his first career NBA three-pointer on February 10th when the Sixers played Milwaukee. Last on our sports agenda, but not least, Milwaukee Bucks guard Dante DiVincenzo. You may have heard of him before. He led Salem High School to 2 straight state championships in 2014 and 2015. And he was recently named to the Delaware men's basketball all-time players list from the News Journal. How about that? Pretty good for him. I think he was number 1 in that list, very deservingly so, and he won a national championship at Villanova. He's having a pretty good season for the league-leading Milwaukee Bucks, averaging 9.1 points and 4.8 rebounds. Pretty impressive numbers for a second-year player. Well, that's all from me. I am Dan Rosenfield once again, and I will see you next month with more exciting Delaware sports action. Now back to Patty and Richard on View from 302.
Thank you, Dan, for that awesome sports segment.
Yeah, and welcome to the crew, Dan. All right, Patty and I right now, we've got some great events that's going to be happening for the month of March, and we want to tell you about them now. For instance, on Friday, March 6th in Wilmington, it's the Wilmington Art Loop, covering 20 different venues where you can enjoy some great artwork. And the exhibits begin at 5:30 p.m. on Friday.
Wonderful. And then March 6th in downtown Wilmington, it's country line dancing at the Grand. The dance floor opens up at 7 p.m. Richard, I love me a good line dance.
And on Saturday, March 7th in Newark, Delaware Park will present the Kick It Out Band in a tribute to the group from the 80s, Heart. Showtime, 9 p.m.
And on Thursday, March the 12th in Bear, Delaware, it's Operation VA Connect at the Bear Library, sponsored by the Veterans Outreach Ministry from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m.
And that's great for veterans to go out and get some more information.
Yes, it is.
It's going to be a very nice event. And then on Friday, March 13th, 13th, in Newcastle, William Penn High School will present their annual Students Jazz Concert, and that happens at 6 p.m.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Saturday, March the 14th in Smyrna, the annual Sheridan Block Party will be in full effect. Better call to get your wristbands now.
And on Friday, March 20th in Wilmington, the Fleetwood Mac Tribute Experience will be on stage at the Queen. Showtime, 8 p.m.
Saturday, March 21st at 10 a.m. in Middletown. Be sure and bring your dog to the Crooked Hammock for the kickoff of their Bark for Life celebration.
Bring your doggy
Bring your
on down.
dogs.
They've got some great events. It should be a good time.
Yes.
And on Sunday, March 22nd in Newark, it's the fourth annual Mother and Son Affair at the Executive Banquet Center. Doors open at 4 p.m. And Patty, I know that's another event that's dear
Yes,
to you.
dear and near to my heart. And with my partner and I, Deneen White, we are so looking forward to seeing the mother and sons in the house on March the 22nd. So
Great
thank you for
event.
sharing that, Richard.
Great event.
On Friday, March the 27th in Dover, it's the last Friday of the month adult dance party hosted by no other Mr. Richard F. Blackwell
Yeah, that's
at the
right.
Boulevard Cafe.
That's right, but don't forget, when you come out to party at the Boulevard in Dover, you got to be 30 and over.
Oh, okay.
So it should be a nice dance affair. Come on,
Yes.
have a good time. And then on Saturday, March 28th in Newark, it's the Fusion 5 and Wine Walk. First, you run the race, and then you have the wine.
Okay.
After the race, everyone will go to Deer Park for food and refreshments. The race starts at 9 a.m.
Awesome.
Well, there you have it. Some very exciting things to look
Yes,
for
yes.
in the month of March in Delaware. And that does it for us for this episode.
Wow, what a great show.
Yeah.
What a great show.
And we want to invite you, ladies and gentlemen, to join us on the first Wednesday in the month of April, which is April 1st, for our next episode. I'm Richard Frank Blackwell.
And I am Patricia D. Harris.
And we want to thank you for watching
View from 302.